I'm Justin Foa, CEO and President of Foa & Son, and joining me today is Bernard Goldman, our General Counsel and Senior Vice President here at Foa. Welcome, Bernie.
Thank you, Justin.
We've been monitoring the information that's being distributed on COVID-19, and honestly, it's starting to be information overload. So we created Foa 15 webinars to allow you to get the headlines and a little bit of depth on a topic in about 15 minutes, and we'll include some great links of resources that'll expand the areas that we discuss. This is the first in this series of webinars, and it touches on the challenges and risks that our clients face in opening their facilities and how this might be covered by their insurance. Bernie, let's get right into it. If you're an essential business that's considering open facilities now, or a business that believes they'll be able to open soon, what are some of the things that you're thinking about when inviting employees back? Let's start first about the performance aspect and which employees you want back.
You need to keep it neutral. All of the employment law, the discrimination that existed before COVID-19 is still in play. So using COVID-19 as a reason to weed out people that you weren't necessarily happy with before is inviting claims against you. If you had great documentation about it before, that was the time to take action or do it down the road. But you want to have a neutral basis for bringing people back. Seniority, job function, something where people really can't attack that you're using this as an excuse to take some type of job action.
Gotcha. Now, if there's already some seriously documented issues or if someone's on a rehabilitation plan, would that be a reason not to invite them back?
It could. If you are a company that has a well-developed system of reviews, if you have progressive discipline, and arguably had somebody on a probation plan, that certainly could be a reason. You just have to make sure that you have very good documentation, because those are the types of situations that employment lawyers will look to take the case on.
Gotcha. Let's talk a little bit about vulnerability. Some employees are more vulnerable to this virus than others. How do you take that into account when inviting your employees back?
Short answer is you don't. Let them self-select. So if an employee has a pre-existing health condition and they communicate that to you, same requirements as before. So it's a disability. If you can reasonably accommodate their disability and they still can do their job, great. If you can't, you can't. I mean, you can only do what you can do. But what you don't want to do is put yourself in a situation where you're evaluating the health of your employees based upon what you're thinking and what you're seeing, and you're weeding out those that you think might be more vulnerable. What you do need to do is be very clear in what the job consists of in the new normal. So these are the additional procedures you're going to be following. These are some PPEs that you're going to be required to use: masks, gloves, sanitizers, other things, laid out to the employees, put in a letter to each employee. This is what's required. Let them make the decision. They know their health situation better than you would know it.
Gotcha. What if they simply don't want to come back because of unemployment? And it's the rich benefits that they're getting right now through the federal government.
It's a very real possibility that they won't. If you have particularly lower paid workers and you have a high turnover business, it may not be financially worthwhile for them to come back. Many employers are concerned about the cost of unemployment. The jury's still out on that. So about a third of the states have already said they're not going to charge employers for COVID-19 claims. The others are waiting for federal guidance. That shouldn't be the concern of the employer. Knowing that there's a decent likelihood you will not be charged, let the employees figure it out. All you can do is document, this is your new normal. These are the requirements of your job. If you choose not to come back, ultimately, you're resigning your position. Whether they get unemployment or they don't get unemployment, not your issue, from a business owner's point of view.
Gotcha, Bernie. Let's shift gears a minute and go to employment practices and liability insurance. Many of our clients buy this coverage. What's going on in this marketplace? And when insurers are renewing these policies, what questions are they asking and what coverages are they modifying depending on the answers?
It's one of the most difficult areas of insurance coverage right now. The insurance companies that write employment practices coverage see the potential for many different types of lawsuits, both from the furloughs, the layoffs that have been going on, as well as the return to work. So they're looking for quite a bit of detail in terms of how you handle those, what your return to work procedures are, how are you keeping employees safe, how did you decide which employees come back, how did you decide what their work requirements and conditions are. If you can't give them a very strong comfort level, you're looking at deductibles that may be 3, 4, 5 times what you had, class action, lawsuit exclusions, other types of COVID-19 claim exclusions. And if you didn't have the coverage before, it's going to be very, very difficult to get any coverage that would apply to these types of losses.
Yeah, no, it's tough out there.
It is.
Let's talk about some of the things that employers need to think about when bringing employees back to work in terms of keeping them safe and some of the questions that those insurers are going to ask. Primarily,
it's steps that can be taken to minimize infection, social distancing, how are you keeping a sanitary work environment, same issues that your customers will be concerned about. So whatever those key steps are, document them for the insurance companies, but things like posters that outline the key steps that we've implemented to keep the employees safe, to keep the customers safe, those are essential. It's not just good for the insurance, it's good for business. That's what customers will be looking for, to know that you're a safe place once you reopen.
Great. Let's say that you do reopen, you've got everything going, you've got your protective equipment, you've got masks, you've got social distancing. Unfortunately, an employee gets COVID. Where might he be covered and under what kind of insurance?
For the individual that was infected, potentially they may be able to get workers' compensation insurance. There's some issues there, but in general, if they could show they were infected at work and that the work responsibilities exposed them, they may get coverage for it there. Cleanup costs can be difficult. There are some property policies that have a small amount of coverage for cleanup costs. But in general, employers should know, businesses should know, if there's been actual contamination on site, you are going to have to close for a period of time, at least 3 days. You are going to have to completely disinfect the workplace. So the additional steps that you take, it's just good business. Keeps you open, it keeps the business going, and also minimizes claims at the same time.
Thank you, Bernie. Look, I know this is a ton of stuff to think about, so we, as promised, we have available on our website, foasun.com, a COVID-19 resource page. And right under the link to this webinar, you will find a bunch of resources that we think could be really helpful to you in restarting your business. The first one, we talked about unemployment and how those chargebacks might be happening. There's a great chart in there that talks about what's happening in your state. There's a checklist of procedures about things you need to consider when bringing back employees in terms of protection and distancing and procedures that will keep everybody safe. And I would say that checklist also extends into customers as well. And then also a guide to create a return to work plan. That kind of plan is the thing that insurance companies will be asking for when you renew your employment practices liability insurance, and certainly will help protect you against employment-related liability claims. And then last, we have a sample return from furlough letter or return from layoff letter, and a sample welcome back to the employee letter. All those things I think will be extremely helpful as you open up your businesses and get back to work. I want to thank you for joining us, and Bernie, thank you so much for enlightening us on this topic.
Thank you, Justin. Thanks.